So my training is as a psychiatrist. So I started off at med school, went to Sheffield, and then after that I specialised in psychiatry. After I've been working as a psychiatrist for a couple of years, I began to get a little bit dismayed about the way in which we were treating some of our patients. I found the psychotherapy was, on the whole, very good, but because of time constraints, people were quite often relying on drug treatments, and those drug treatments very frequently didn't address the root cause of the problem that patients were experiencing. And what this meant is that it felt like a lot of the time we were patching people up, sending them out, and then they'd come back in again very quickly. And this used to happen so much that there's even a term for it. It's called the revolving door syndrome. And so after a while of working with that, I began to think there must be a better way of treating patients like this. And so I started getting interested in transcultural psychiatry and how mental health is treated in different countries. And I spent a little bit of time working in northern Uganda. I was working with child soldiers there. And then I went over to Central and South America, and kind of by a stroke of luck, I guess you could call it, I found myself sitting in a cafe in Guatemala next to somebody who was training to be a shaman or a curandero. And so I started talking to him about the way that he treated patients. And he was roughly the same age and grade as me, I guess, but in the equivalent traditional medicine. And he was telling me about how he used this psychedelic ayahuasca to treat his patients. And these stories almost sounded too good to be true. Everything that I've been struggling to treat back home, he seemed to be saying that this traditional medicine had a way that they could treat it. And so I went down with him to the Peruvian Amazon and drank ayahuasca with him. I had my first-hand experience with ayahuasca. And I was completely blown away by the effects that it had in me and the other participants that I was with. And so I excitedly called some of my colleagues back home and was telling them about my experience. And I started looking into the research that had been done into ayahuasca. And much to my surprise, I found that although there was some research looking at ayahuasca in South America, in the kind of traditional churches, which is where they combine Christianity with ayahuasca, which is quite a curious mix. You literally have church services where everyone's drinking ayahuasca.
Yeah, absolutely.
There wasn't very much research, or pretty much none, looking at these retreat centres, following the traditional kind of indigenous way of using ayahuasca. And so I started looking for funding to do research into ayahuasca. Was unsuccessful, perhaps unsurprisingly, and so me and my colleagues back home actually self-funded our first study looking at ayahuasca and personality. And we were hoping that this would open up the door to get more funding. To be completely honest, I didn't think that was going to happen, and I thought this would be that one time we did a study into ayahuasca, and it wasn't that great. But it did open up the door for more funding, and it really just snowballed from that time. And now I run a charity that does research into traditional plant medicines in the Amazon rainforest, and also conduct randomised controlled trials into ayahuasca analogues based in Melbourne.